How would you feel if the U.S. government made the day for voting a holiday? Serious question. Are elections in the U.S. not on Sundays but on regular working days? We have elections on Sundays and vote by mail if you order the papers before the election. This is to make it easier for most working people to vote. If the U.S. always does it on Tuesdays, together with the big fizz against mail voting, this sounds like a scheme to prevent the working people from voting. So a free day for votes might be good for you. Would be interesting to see what changed if the working people would have a chance to actually participate in elections with large numbers. Originally it was a scheme to make it easier for people to vote. The majority of people used to make a living in agriculture, and since most didn't live in cities but rather rural areas, it would take one day to get to their voting place. Sunday was seen as impractical since everyone went to Mass and Wednesday was market day for farmers. So Tuesday was picked as it was seen as the most convenient option. The fact it's in November also has to do with farm culture. Spring and summer and early fall were seen as impractical since that's when planting and harvesting take place. By November the harvest has been completed and it's not yet harsh winter weather. So basically no, it was not to deter voting. But now most people don't work in agriculture, and I agree that it needs to be updated. 100% correct. Thomas Jefferson wrote that we should provide in our Constitution for its revision at stated periods. Each generation should have the solemn opportunity to update the Constitution every 19 or 20 years, thus allowing it to be handed on, with periodical repairs, from generation to generation, to the end of time. That's one of the Founding Fathers. But now we wouldn't dare change anything, and it shows it's a pretty common theme. I think it's more noticeable in the U.S. because other countries are either older so they've been updating their laws for many centuries anyway, or significantly younger so their laws either aren't seen with the same sanctity that is often placed on laws in the U.S., particularly laws introduced by founders either as actual laws or embedded within the Constitution, or are modern enough as it is. Still seems like a weird idea. In Switzerland, voting day is on Sunday exactly because of church. Back in the day, people went to church with the envelope in their coat pocket, and after services they walked over to the school and dropped in their votes. Because Sunday was the day where farmers had to be in town anyway. For your information, in Canada the law is they only have to give you time if your work schedule has blocked you from having 3 consecutive hours to vote. Work 10 to 730. Polling is open from 7 to 9. Your employer does not have to legally give you any time off since you have 3 consecutive hours in the morning. For most people the above rules are fine, however, for those working lower pay retail jobs and relying on public transit they might not be. I'm mixed on holiday voting since I personally don't think it solves the problem. The only way it works is if it's on like a Wednesday so people don't just long weekend it. Also it needs to be mandatory, as in all retail fast food etc. are closed. Edit. I actually missed the time requirement the Canadian laws have, which is 3 consecutive hours, between 830 to 830. I will leave the above incorrect example up. Personally, I believe I have had employers in Canada violate this fairly easily, and with impunity, when I worked retail. Our elections in Ireland are usually on Thursdays or Fridays, but the polling stations are open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Admittedly, the land area we need to cover is a lot smaller than the U.S., and we make sure there's a lot of polling stations. They're usually in local primary schools, so realistically your polling station is never going to be more than about 10 kilometers, 6-ish miles, from where you live, or rather from where you're registered to vote. If you forgot to re-register when you moved house, or went away for college or anything, then you're in trouble, as you might need to get from Dublin to Fsking Donegal to vote, which is like a 5+ hour bus ride, since most university students here don't have cars. But I've known plenty who do it, just miss their afternoon lectures to get the bus that'll get them home before 10 p.m. In Australia we vote on Saturdays. You can also vote by mail or vote early in person. There's rarely a queue, and we even have sausage sizzles at our polling centers. I love that you never have to worry about how to vote or if you'll have time. It's so easy to just rock up. You don't even need ID, you give your name and address and declaration that you haven't voted yet in that election. Then they cross your name out in their book. Also criminals and those with criminal records can vote. There's no voter suppression at all. Only the advanced voting locations will be open for the 2 weeks. They will be staffed. This year there are 750 advanced voting locations and 2,500 locations on actual election day, Saturday 19th. That's 30% of pro locations. Most people should have one reasonably close to them. Postal voting is available, but hasn't really been encouraged in the past. It's only intended for people who can't make it to the polls due to disabilities. But I hear they're beefing it up this year. There are other options too, including having a family member bring your voting paper to you, and even telephone voting. Email and fax are options too. It's all about finding an individual option that works with that person's disability. I think the idea of making Election Day a federal holiday is well-meaning, but so few businesses actually close on minor federal holidays like Columbus Day. And those that do, like banks, generally treat their workforce with more flexibility. Retail stores and other low-wage employers would stay open, thus negating the benefit. I think making Election Day multi-day, maybe Sunday through Tuesday, would help, as people could find a time that worked for them. The idea that Election Day is one singular day was not what the Founding Fathers intended, though in fairness they didn't intend for the common man to vote for president either. The first presidential elections happened at various times in the various states from April through November originally. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that a holiday is not a holiday for everyone. Generally, the lower class does not get holidays off because of the types of jobs they work. I'm required to work weekends and holidays excluding Christmas Day. I highly doubt we'd get a day off to vote. That being said, it's illegal not to let your employees go vote, but that doesn't mean you'll get paid for the time you're standing at the polls. Actually, coming from another country, I really cannot understand why it should not be a holiday or a Sunday, where most people have time. As a democratic country, you should enable most of your citizens to be able to vote. And that is generally the case when they have time to vote. In France, the people managing the polling stations are usually people working at the town hall, municipal councillors, or people picked by the parties/candidates at the election. And if there are still not enough people, the first to show up on election day, always a Sunday, are asked to stay for the day. Essential is a term that's become relevant recently, but largely includes a ton of the people that work service-oriented jobs which can be genuinely essential. They definitely are the people with a lesser access to voting. Taking off from work at an hourly or tip-based job means a loss of income, especially on a national holiday. Grocery stores, gas stations, and major retail stores will all be scheduling shifts, more than likely not accounting for when voting centers are open and their lines. Pandemic essential services, and most of the entertainment/food/bev businesses that have been shut down. It's all of those workers that will be left without the time to go out and vote. Think about what you would do with a day off. Get some groceries, maybe grab a lunch with some friends while you don't have to be at the office, vote, buy a mattress, and then start the night with an early happy hour while watching the results come in. The service sector will still be expected to work, and will be incentivized to forego voting if it doesn't fit in with their work schedule. Unless individual businesses or major companies decide to delay opening, stagger shifts, or close for the day, many workers will be left out of the voting window. I'm in full support of a voting holiday, and I understand that the country can fully shut down, but as said above, it's not the panacea. See, this right here is the problem. In theory, a holiday is a great idea, but in practice it'd only change things for a small amount of people. Is the whole country going to willingly let essential workers take the day off too? People don't like it when fast food restaurants shut down for Christmas Day in heavily Christian areas, let alone letting everyone take time off to vote. And with the way people were reacting with businesses opening late with the COVID situation, I can imagine this doing much. Heck, I'm curious how other countries handle those types of workers on voting day. So there you have it, guys. If you need more videos like these on deep darkest confessions, then smash that like button and subscribe now, and stay tuned for more videos like these.